Bounce Gang.
We're live.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 62. Maybe 63 now. I don't know. It's
We've lost count, which is kind of nice. We're not mad.
We're not mad. Thank you for listening to another fresh episode of Fresh Mondays podcast. We want to say a very special thank you to Michael, our very last guest from our last episode.
Yes, he showed us his intellectual design, which was in his apartment. The animals were super out of this world, just super exciting and fun to see, kind of like museum-like. And it's great to hear more about like his family history and kind of where those things stand, and just his creativeness as well. So that was a great conversation.
Right. And shout out to the Cartel Crew guys on VH1. We appreciate that you took the time to like share with us a little bit about what it's like to be on a reality show and the difference between that and what you do as a person who wants to create film. There is a difference, and there's two different elements to it. So we did learn something. So make sure to check out his designs, his concepts, and stay tuned. I think this kid's pretty talented, and we're going to see a lot more of his designs to come.
Yeah, I pretty hope that in Cartel Crew, we get to see a little bit more of him, one. Two, of more of everyone's more creative side of what they do, well, which I started watching the show. So as everyone knows, if you know me on a personal side, I am a reality show junkie. Outside of work, all I need is Housewives and Vanderpump Rules, and we're good. So hopefully we get to see a little bit more of Michael within there, but as well as like the creativeness that he has and what he has to show, and what he can do. Because we do see a lot of that within the other characters. I don't say characters, but the other folks within the show. So it'd be great to see that with him as well. So shout outs to Michael though.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing your coming out story. Ultimately, we all know that that's not an easy subject. And if you're brave enough to share it with your family and share it with the world, we commend you for being your true self.
For sure. And today's episode is super special as well. We have a Washington native joining us. So now something related to the West Coast, kind of where I'm at. Her name is Audrey Hart Phillips. She is the creator of 365 Meaningful Conversations. And I'm excited to kind of get to know her more, see what she has going on, and more about this platform that she uses. Her Instagram is very lively and beautiful. So we're going to get into a conversation with Audrey, and we hope you guys enjoy.
All right, everybody. Welcome Audrey to the Fresh Mondays podcast. Audrey, please tell everybody who you are, what you do, and what is your company?
My name's Audrey, and I started 365 Meaningful Conversations, and I designed a box of cards that inspire meaningful conversations and host events for people to get to know one another all over Seattle.
That's awesome. What is 365 Meaningful Conversations?
Yeah, it's a business that has a mission of creating spaces for people to connect through meaningful conversations, because we have so much small talk about the weather or how are you? Good, how are you? And we don't really have a lot of spaces for people to actually get to know one another. So we ask a lot of questions, and we allow people to really connect through these meaningful conversations prompted by a card game.
You know what's funny? I actually was in a networking event this past week, and there was a keynote speaker that he was there to kind of inspire people who were entrepreneurs or creating a startup. Point is that he said the one thing he hates the most, and when he realizes a person is not seasoned at networking, is that when they talk about the weather or they talk about the traffic to get to the event. And then he states something that really resonated with me, and it triggered something that you just said, that when people can recap what they just spoke about with you, they're going to talk about that you said that there was traffic. How does that stand out? How do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it comes down to the point that you need to have something of substance. So I'm glad you're kind of, from what I'm gathering, creating some kind of a guide for people to ask the right questions, right?
Yeah, we offer, I'd say, a tool. You have 365 different questions that you could pull out And you don't need to physically pull out the card. Like if someone was at this networking event and they were familiar with our product and had gone to one of our events, I bet they could come up with a question that would really surprise people, because it's a little bit less talking about the traffic or the weather.
Right, right. So tell us what inspired you to even create these questions. How did you even come up with this idea? I think it's awesome, by the way, but like what inspired you?
Thank you. There's so many different levels of inspiration. I started from a young age drawing tons and tons of quote cards, and I ended up taking those on a 50-day wilderness course where we'd read a quote before every dinner. And at the end of that course, you do a 3-day solo, you sit alone in the woods, and I had all these quote cards that I had created, and I decided to write a question on the back of each of them because I realized that these quotes had sparked so many conversations while we were out in the wilderness together. And I got back from that trip and I had started using them when I was working as a wilderness guide with some of my students. And I was so surprised how like eager these teenagers were to talk about these kind of deeper questions. And it hit me one day that I wanted to do a crowdfunder to get the money to make them into an actual thing that people could buy and use in their everyday life. So that was kind of like the initial start of it.
And so do you design the cards all yourself? Because I've noticed there's a lot of artistic, I mean, you said that you were writing on the card, you know, the quote card that you made. So all these current cards, the 365, are those all drawn by you by hand? Are those all your specific drawings?
Yeah, that's all my own artwork, all the doodles. It's other people's quotes, but I feel like I kind of brought them to life through cute little doodles that help get these really big ideas that quotes have into kind of a digestible thing. And then the question on the back always relates to the quote, which is a great thing when someone pulls a card out at an event and they're kind of thinking about the question. They can always flip it over and read the quote out loud. And for some reason, it just really inspires people or gives that permission for them to really go the next level deeper.
What kind of, like, can you tell us the range in questions these are?
Yes, there's a huge range. I think the deepest, in my opinion, is what was the rock bottom of your life? And
that's a lot on the first. I'm thinking
that's
like
pretty
on a
heavy. Yeah.
But I'm just imagining, like, I know these aren't for like dates and stuff like that, but it can possibly be used for different functions. So I'm trying to picture myself in a function and saying, what's the rock bottom of your life? That's deep.
yes, that one is definitely